Seattle, the Vera Project. Hello.
Hello, Seattle. I'm listening.
So Seattle's, it's treating us pretty good. Don't want to roast it too hard, but
That's fantastic. Scrambled eggs are amazing. Tossed salad, best in the world.
Niles, this is the worst you've ever messed up. You said the N-word on your Twitch stream after Drake was on it.
There's a Starbucks in my hotel. I didn't know they did that.
There are Starbucks everywhere, and actually, we would like to start out this evening by reading to you guys from not one, but two books by Howard Schultz,
Yes.
CEO of Starbucks.
The modern prophet, the man who saw a disgusting, stink-infested, fish gut-riddled town in the Puget Sound and said, "Here I will build my church. I will build a glorious church made of beans."
I'm just inspired by Howard Schultz. It wasn't enough for him to invent the beloved comic strip Peanuts.
or to appear on the hilarious sitcom Hogan's Heroes. Sergeant Schultz, remember him, folks?
Can we get the sad face for that
God
one?
damn it!
Yeah, that's first of
I
the
was
night.
trying to avoid it! Fuck!
First.
Absolute flop.
First weeping face of the evening for that Hogan's Heroes reference.
Damn it. People love that show.
There is the figure of masculine order, Colonel Kurtz, but he's always being fooled by the feminine energy of his buxom secretary.
Clink. It's Colonel Clink. If it was Colonel Kurtz, that'd be a way more interesting show.
In the manga.
They got LeBeau's head on a fucking stake in front of the camp. Am I right, folks?
In the manga, it's Colonel Kurtz.
He cannot be stopped.
No, you know what? People think they can get you if you're wrong about something. But the truth is, if you know one thing, you know everything. And you can connect it back to that one thing and pretend you were talking about that.
Felix realized this after he referred to the famous volcano in ancient Rome as Mount Vesuvio.
It would stop most people, but I said, well, actually, the restaurant Vesuvio in Sopranos also burned down.
See? Done. He cannot be faded, folks. Okay, so this is Howard Schultz, who, again, someone informed me of this. In addition to being the Starbucks guy, he's also the asshole that fucked up the Supersonics, right? That Oklahoma City is a big fan of this guy.
And if you go to the Wikipedia page for 2020 potential Democratic presidential candidates, Howard Schultz is...
No.
It's a very broad list. It's got a lot of crazy names on there, Mark Cuban and stuff. It's the broadest possible list, but on the list is Howard Schultz.
Okay.
He wasn't considered, remember, he was on the short list for Hillary's cabinet. He would have been at least Secretary of, I think, Labor, and maybe even like Commerce or fucking Treasury.
Well, this is interesting because in these books he offers a fairly telling vision of the ideology of contemporary capitalism.
Indeed.
So I just want to dive into this one. His first book is called Onward, which I think was the same slogan as the Italian Fascist Party.
Avanti.
Okay, this is from part 1, which is titled Love. Chapter 1, a beverage of truth.
Yes, in Coffee Veritas. That's the old...
So he said, on Tuesday afternoon in February 2008, Starbucks closed all of its U.S. stores.
Whoa.
A note posted on 71,000 locked doors explained the reason. We're taking time to perfect our espresso. Great espresso requires patience. That's why we're dedicating ourselves to honing our craft. Now, I vaguely remember this.
I remember this because everyone was pointing out how shitty their coffee was.
There you go. So Starbucks, they've won. They've won. So like this whole first chapter is about the decision point he made to shutter all the Starbucks to retrain their staff. So I'd like to read a little of this now. He says, pouring espresso is an art. one that requires the barista to care about the quality of the beverage. If the barista only goes through the motions, if he or she does not care and produces an inferior espresso that is too weak or too bitter, then Starbucks has lost the essence of what we set out to do 40 years ago. Inspire the human spirit.
For context, Starbucks is where you go if you did a lot of cocaine the night before and you're not letting go of your idea with your business partner for a pizzeria that's inspired by nightclub atmospheres.
Starbucks has always been about so much more than coffee. But without great coffee, we have no reason to exist.
Well, hold on a minute. Seems to me that if the coffee is that necessary, then it's the thing it's about.
All right, just one last thing here.
It's about the thing that you literally can't have it without.
Yeah, it's a coffee place, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
All right, one last thing here for chapter 1. He says, there is a word that comes to my mind when I think about our company and our people. That word is love. I love Starbucks because everything we've tried to do is steeped in humanity. That makes it sound like Soylent Green.
We steep every one of our delicious beans in rich, delicious humanity.
All right,
No, it's not love, it's coffee. It's about coffee. It's not a brothel or something.
Pretty sure 100% of the people who go to Starbucks go there for some sort of coffee or coffee derivative.
All right, Matt, what is your book, the other Howard Schultz
All right, my
book?
book is another one of his fucking literary self-blowjobs. It's called Pour Your Heart Into It. How Starbucks Built a Company One Cup at a Time. Wretched garbage, of course, and really, really insidious in the way that it promotes ideology of capitalism and as like a thing that sort of justifies itself. But we'll get to that. So this is the one thing he says early in the chapter. One thing I've noticed about romantics, they try to create a new and better world far from the drabness of everyday life. That is Starbucks' aim too. We try to create in our stores a little neighborhood spot where you can take a break, listen to some jazz, and ponder universal or personal or even whimsical questions over a cup of coffee. What kind of person dreams up such a place?
Matt, my next one, just perfect companion to that one. He writes here, valuing personal connections at a time when so many people sit alone in front of screens, aspiring to build human relationships in an age when so many issues polarize so many, and acting ethically, even if it costs more, when corners are routinely cut. These are honorable pursuits, are at the core of what we set out to be. And what I like about this is he keeps going back to this idea that it's more than a coffee shop. It's a place. Anyone who's ever been,
It's a coffee clutch.
it's the modern day agora where ideas and philosophies are exchanged. Every time I've ever been to a Starbucks, and by the way, they have done a good job of making pretty much okay coffee available everywhere in this country, which is no small feat, but that's not enough for him. It has to be more about love and inspiring human connection and meaning.
That screen thing is the mantra of every shitty coffee shop that has a sign up that says, no Wi-Fi, talk to your neighbor.
Oh, yeah. And every Starbucks I've ever been to, it's just people robotically shuffling in and out on their way to or from the office just to get their bean juice that they need to make it through the day, spent largely staring at screens, either in Starbucks or out of one.
The only passion that exists in a Starbucks is every few months when a Trump person is just tell them your name is All Lives Matter. Just do it. They can't fucking stop you. It's not illegal. It's the First Amendment. Then they have to say it. Then that raises awareness of Trump.
Yeah, this is the guy, after all, who at one point encouraged his fucking employees to engage the customers on questions of race.
I can tell you, as a former employee of Starbucks, that the best part of it for employees was also not love, nor was it coffee. It was all the whippets you got for the whipped cream.
Okay, one more here. He says, infusing work with purpose and meaning, however, is a two-way street. Yes, love what you do, but your company should love you back. As a merchant, my desire has always been to inspire customers, exceed their high expectations, and establish and maintain their trust in us. As an employer, my duty has always been to do the same for people on the other side of the counters. For our partners, this latter responsibility has driven me for many, many years. So again, it's this idea that it's not enough to just be the most successful coffee chain ever in human history. It's about inspiring connections.
Right. Well, the thing is that for him, for a guy like Howard Schultz, who has devoted their life to this acquisition of wealth at this frenzied pace, it has to be about more. It has to be about connections and passion and love and family. Because if it isn't, then it's just about the cold, bloody, inhuman logic of capitalism, of buying for X and selling for Y and keeping as much of the surplus as you can. Like, that's the brutal reality of what he has devoted his life to, this fucking machinery of exploitation. Who could fucking handle thinking that every day, that that's what they were doing? So he's basically building an ideological buffer whereby he's not doing the thing he's doing. He's doing this other thing.
I think you're giving him too much
wonderful.
credit.
It's what he's doing. I'm not saying this is conscious. I'm saying what he's doing. It's the subconscious way that all of us, by interacting in capitalism and then responding to it honestly, just put skin and sinew on this gleaming Terminator skeleton of capitalism with these ideas about work being meaningful in some spiritual sense instead of just a cold extractive enterprise.
I still think you're giving him too much credit. I mean, really, I think the idea that he needs to morally rationalize it has less to do with the fact that he's like this bougie, genteel person, and Coffee King of America sounds tackier than what he wants to be as like some kind of captain of industry.
No, I don't think that he wants to justify it morally. I just think that he wants to feel like his life has meaning. And that there can be no meaning in capitalism because it requires no human input. He's trying to convince himself that he's actually a human being and not just a function in an algorithm.
Here's another thing he's trying to do. While it would have been audacious for any of us to compare Starbucks' cultural impact to that of the Beatles...
Great start already.
Go on.
And I have to say, Howard Schultz comparing Starbucks to the Beatles is John Lennon comparing the Beatles to Jesus Christ. It's like, calm the fuck down.
One thing was clear from comments like Cliff's. Both are icons that play memorable roles in people's lives. Others piped up with observations about the Beatles' career. The band took risks, someone said. They took us on a journey at a time when the world needed cultural leaders.
So badly.
They didn't compromise. They led with their hearts. The Beatles believed, and if you believe, you can change anything. They kept reinventing themselves, but at the same time, they stayed true to their music. I offered, recalling their 1967 album, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
There was music in that album, I remember that, so...
Using the Beatles as a metaphor for an iconic brand was, I thought, brilliant. It swept us into a creative process, providing fresh context for us to examine and speak about ourselves and the company. Most of us were enthused, although I noticed a few who were lost or rolling their eyes at the exercise. And like Cliff, we got up out of our seats and walked across the posters to pick up our favorites. So yeah,
he thinks he's Don Draper.
Starbucks is a carousel. No, it's like the Beatles in that they were both very successful institutions in our culture.
And also half the original Starbucks board is dead. I love the idea of like a really crazed fan kills the CFO of Starbucks. Like, no, you don't get it. Those quarterly reports meant so much to me. Quarter 3, fiscal year 2011. That was like my Imagine.
He got obsessed with chapter 27 of the Papa John memoir and decided to...
Do you think that the Dunkin' Donuts people are like, well, all right, fine, we're the Stooges. I bring a very Iggy Pop energy to the coffee game.
There's one passage in that book that I didn't flag, but the gist of it is Schultz is looking for ideas. He wants outside-the-box ideas. He's talking to everyone in the company. He ends up talking to an IT guy who explains World of Warcraft to Howard Schultz and says this is the biggest online multiplayer video game of all time. And their demographic is males like 19 to 35.
Who are addicted to caffeine is obviously the subtext here.
Well, at the time, I guess Starbucks, that was the one market they couldn't crack. They couldn't love 19 to 35-year-olds. And so Schultz and some other, C-suites fly to Irvine, California, to the Blizzard headquarters to think about a partnership. The idea was some kind of Starbucks World of Warcraft rewards card. And they go to the Blizzard headquarters, and Schultz sees this 14-foot statue of an orc warrior riding a horse and just shakes his head at it. And this partnership never materialized. And could you imagine how different history would have been?
I believe before that he says, well, I was concerned Warcraft may not be part of our brand.
Not consistent with our values.
Not consistent with our company values.
Yeah, we'll see about it when they form their own private army.
I like the idea that Howard Schultz was just scared by the orc.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
All right.
I asked my personal Blackwater security to check under my bed. Sometimes love means still being afraid of monsters when you're 60.
Okay, so here's another section from this other book, Pour Your Heart Into It, where he talks about how he
pour like coffee. I just got that.
He talks about he was inspired to basically invent the idea of espresso bars in the United States, because when he took over at Starbucks, they didn't sell coffee retailly. They sold it only in bags. And he said, let's turn it into coffee bars. And he brought espresso from Italy to the United States. And he talks about how he was inspired to do it here. There's no better place to truly savor the romance of life than Italy. And so he talks about how the Italians do things differently. They're more
They do
relaxed.
street harassment on scooters.
Yeah. They have an unparalleled appreciation for the fine pleasures of daily life. They have figured out how to live in perfect balance. They understand what it means to work, and equally what it means to relax and enjoy life. They embrace everything with passion. Nothing is mediocre. The infrastructure in Italy is appalling. Nothing works. But the food of Italy is absolutely incredible. The architecture is breathtaking. The fashion still defines elegance.
Wrong.
All over
Wrong.
the world.
They drink cheap espresso on the Giancarlo Hill overlooking Rome.
They do that. So he talks about how he was in Milano, and he came to espy a number of very charming espresso shops. And he says, half a block across the side street, I saw another espresso bar. This one was even more crowded. I noticed that the gray-haired man behind the counter greeted every customer by name. He appeared to be both owner and operator. He and his customers were laughing and talking and enjoying the moment. I could tell that the customers were regulars and the routines comfortable and familiar. In the next few blocks, I saw 2 more espresso bars. I was fascinated. It was on that day that I discovered the ritual and the romance of coffee bars in Italy. I saw how popular they were and how vibrant. Each one had its own unique character, but they had one common thread, the camaraderie between the customers who knew each other well and the barista who was performing with flair.
What if he just actually went by like a bunch of cruising spots in Milan and like didn't know it? He's like, this must be what they're like about coffee.
The customer service at this place was amazing.
Oh man, the operator and the customers, they all get into this big foamy bath together. It's amazing.
He says, at that time there were 200,000 coffee bars in Italy and 1,500 alone in the city of Milan, a city of size of Philadelphia. It seemed they were on every street corner and all were packed. My mind started churning. And I once wonder how many of those fucking coffee bars were destroyed or displaced by a fucking Starbucks since then. It's like this amazing, vibrant, unique culture that I monopolized and destroyed.
Now, I've never been to Italy, but let me ask you this. Do these coffee bars also sell alcohol?
Not always. Often not.
Many of them do, though.
Some of them.
So then they're just bars.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing. The defining thing of the coffee is that the buyers is that it's mostly, if not entirely, coffee.
I mean, is there a coffee place that just sort of booze at night becomes a bar? Or...
I don't know, man. Maybe.
Okay, well, you started answering the question, so I thought you had the inside track on this one.
I've been to a place that had coffee in their day and then had alcohol at night. They exist.
What was it called?
We'll be resolving this in the 9 o'clock show tonight.
I don't remember.
This has been Rick Steves, Kicks on Europe.
We're going to resolve this with Chris Hardwick in After Chapo, appearing on Netflix.